Hi everyone. So today I want to talk about biometrics. First, let's start with the technical tutorial. What are biometrics? Biometrics is defined as the unique physical and behavioral characteristics of someone that allow for contactless identification of a user. Often, biometrics are biological markers such as face shape, fingerprints, voice and speech, iris, and veins. Those are the most commonly known biological-based biometrics, but other markers are used for identity authentication, such as ear shape and even odor. Behavioral characteristics used in biometric authentication include things like lip movement, location, keystrokes on a device, and other things. The goal of using biometrics is to protect users from having their identity stolen or having their accounts accessed without authorization. And this information came from ABI research as of 2023. There are six common types that ABI research outlines. The first is facial recognition. Facial recognition is one of the most common forms of secure biometric authentication. It's often used as a standalone security solution. Put it simply, facial recognition technology involves a citizen's smartphone camera capturing their face and confirming the individual's identity by analyzing facial geometry and measurements. Second is fingerprint scanning. Fingerprint scanning is ubiquitous in identity authentication. This technology is used either as the only biometric identifier type or as an additional security layer in a multi-factor approach. According to research published by IEEE, about 75% of people are comfortable using a fingerprint scanner for identity authentication. Third is voice recognition. Voice recognition capabilities can listen to the sound of the user's voice to ensure it matches the audio sample on file. This kind of biometric-based verification is commonly used in e-commerce and banking. Voice is a biological marker and is as unique as your fingerprint or iris, meaning it's very difficult to mimic a user's speech, and vocal biometric systems are highly secure and curb cyber threats. Fourth is behavioral biometrics. Behavioral biometric solutions create a user profile based on an individual's behavioral characteristics when interacting with their device or devices. As an example, think of unique keystrokes made by a smartphone or a user's typical location when using the app, gait biometrics, and lip movement. By assessing this sort of data, a biometric system can better predict which behaviors are consistent with the individual. Therefore, if user behavior is inconsistent with normal patterns, the user will be alerted about possible fraud. Fifth is iris recognition. Iris recognition is one of the most secure and future-proof forms of identity authentication. Impressively, iris scanners are shown to be as effective as 99.59% accurate, highlighting how reliable this technology is in safeguarding digital identities. Lastly is vein recognition. Vein recognition, like iris recognition, is incredibly secure for identity authentication. This biometric technology recognizes the unique patterns of a user's veins. Vein biometrics have been used in the banking industry since 2004. Next, let's talk about the history and development of biometrics. First, biometrics can be traced back to ancient times when fingerprints and handprints were used as signatures and seals. In 1879, the French police officer developed a system of anthropometry, which involves measuring various physical features such as height, weight, and the size of the head, arms, and feet to identify criminals. In the early 20th century, the first fingerprinting systems were developed, and their use became widespread. Fingerprint identification is now widely used by police and law enforcement organizations. Now for modern times. Biometric systems such as voice, iris, and facial recognition were developed in the latter half of the 20th century. These technologies became commercially available in the 2010s and widely used since then. Today, biometrics is used in a wide range of applications, including border control, law enforcement, access control, and identity verification. Also, it's worth noting this history information came from Thales as of 2023. And forces that influence the formation of a modern biometric include a drive for increased security, ease of access, and individualized authentication. Now let's talk about alternatives and related tech. First is passwords. Passwords are the most common alternative to biometrics, where you have a username and input some sort of key, like character long password. This is, while more resettable, less secure, as biometrics come from your person. But I'll talk about that more in the strengths and weaknesses section. Next up are tokens, which are a physical tag or other item that you can use to log into your computer. I'm pretty sure I remember the professor saying that they used to have a keystroke or a token that they could just plug into the computer and it would unlock it, or use as part of multi-factor authentication, although I might be getting this class confused with the cyber policy class. Last up worth mentioning is multi-factor authentication, which isn't necessarily an alternative, but more so a related technology, because behavioral analytics and other sorts of biometrics can be used as part of multi-factor authentication. And multi-factor authentication is just a combination of two or more of these security measures. Next up is strengths and weaknesses. First, the strengths. Biometrics are highly secure and unique because they're tailored to an individual's body, but that comes with its own downfalls. They're also convenient because they are a part of your body. You can scan your finger, you can scan your face. Lastly, they're efficient. I don't know about other systems, but my Windows laptop uses facial recognition and it starts up as soon as I open the laptop and logs in without having to press a button, which is probably the most efficient way, at least commercially, you can get into a laptop. Next, let's talk about weaknesses. First are the privacy issues. Privacy issues arise because whenever you're uploading biometric data, that is data about your physical body that you, as a user, are concerned about more so than just a random like combination of letters and numbers and a password. That's because it relates to the physical and real you. That data being online is a bigger risk. Next are false positives and negatives. I don't think this is still a common issue, but you used to be able to trick Face ID with a photo of the person rather than the person being there. Also, people that look similar or a fingerprint scanner could get a misread. There are just more security issues than there would be with a username and a password because passwords can be input one way and one way only. Um, Also, you might get locked out of your computer if the computer decides not to recognize your fingerprint or face, which has happened to me. After I hurt my finger rock climbing, I was unable to scan my fingerprint anymore and get into my computer. Luckily, they use multi-factor authentication. I can just enter a password. Next up is the high cost. This is probably less true now, but it used to be true that the systems used for biometrics were way more costly than a username and a password. It's probably still true, just to a lesser degree and not as impactful as a weakness. Lastly, they're non-replaceable. If your biometrics get stolen after the data is online, you're almost unable to replace it without going through some extreme measures like burning and redoing your fingerprints or getting plastic surgery to change your face. Next, let's talk about example products and customizations. So most of the good example products I found were software rather than hardware. And that's primarily because the systems needed to use biometrics are already built into technology these days. And the first example of software is BehaviorSec. And BehaviorSec is a LexisNexis company, and it's a behavioral biometrics and continuous authentication provider known for its powerful fraud detection platform. Specializing in behavioral biometrics, its multimodal solution verifies users based on their habits and patterns of behavior to be leveraged as an additional factor in an MFA process or to continually authenticate users throughout the lifecycle of their engagement with a particular platform. This enables organizations to implement both risk-based authentication and a zero-trust approach. Biometrics solutions work silently in the background, authenticating users passively and frictionlessly, yet with a high degree of accuracy. Once deployed, the solution uses machine learning to analyze user interactions, such as the way they type, interact with their smartphones, and move their mouses, alongside various contextual factors to compare them with past behaviors and determine a risk score based on how well they match. Admins can also analyze authentication activity and analytics as well as user risk scores via an easy to use dashboard. So next is iProof Face Verifier and Palm Verifier, just a different type of biometric authentication. And this provider specializes in face and palm verification to authenticate users and prevent spoofing. Its face and palm verifier solutions are built using patent genuine presence assurance technology, which determines whether a user attempting to log in is the right person, a real person, and is authenticating in real time. Both solutions can also be used as primary authentication as part of an MFA process or as a step-up authentication. The face verifier and palm verifier solutions are cloud-based and can be used across all devices that have front-facing cameras. Integrating the solution with the existing technologies is also simple, with many organizations finding the integration process quick and easy to complete. I think it's worth noting that almost all, if not all, of the top products were able to be used in MFA or other sort of combination of approach, which suggests that flexibility, in addition to the other benefits of biometrics, is valued. I also want to cite that Expert Insights gave the information for iProve and Behaviorio, and that was 2024. So to wrap up, hopefully this helped explain the very basics of what biometrics are, some common types of biometrics, where they came from, and some key products, as well as strengths and weaknesses of biometrics. Thanks.